Finjan is a technology company focused on cybersecurity related software and hardware. Initially the company built and sold products, web gateway and software products, and today it continues as a licensing company based on the intellectual property that protected that innovation. The buy-side understanding of public companies in the IP space, and what do I mean by that is public companies who derive the vast majority of their revenues from licensing or enforcement of patents. There's only a few of us. There's probably 30 public IP licensing companies, of which there's maybe a dozen that are New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ listed. And I think over time we're going to move out of a special situations type of category, and you'll be able to see a more differentiated business model that can be understood by the market. One that could be categorized as a company's ability to collect revenues, maybe has a unique infrastructure, how they make decisions strategically and tactically internally related to their IP assets are all going to be important factors. Finjan is a company that, while we do focus on licensing the assets that we have, we also believe that we're a growth story. One of the things that differentiates Finjan from other licensing companies is that the patents that we have and that we're monetizing are the fruits of our own invested R&D. And that gives us the ability to stay connected to the technologies and the products that we sold originally. And the opportunity for us is not just on the licensing side as it exists today, which we believe is a significant opportunity, but also in our potential to acquire new technology companies with great patent portfolios. And that's part of our growth strategy. We believe that there's an opportunity to do more licensing than enforcement. And we've actually identified best practices which we're trying to push throughout the industry in ways in which you can better manage a discussion to reduce timelines to licensing revenues. But to do that, you have to build and focus on building an infrastructure in the company. So today, currently, we have two P&L segments. We have a licensing program, which is headed by Yvonne Chaparro, formerly from Intel and Intellectual Ventures and Alcatel. And on the enforcement side, we have Julie Mar-Spinola, who's spent 30 years in the semiconductor industry at Atmel, Alta, Phoenix. In both of those segments, despite one being on enforcement, we're still very much focused on trying to identify resolution through a successful license. Julie, for example, happens to be a mediator in the Northern District of California and a special master for patent cases, not just our own, but that brings credibility to those licensing discussions and settlement discussions as well. Why cybersecurity and why enforcement? Cybersecurity is the sector that Finjan has always been in. Our products were initially software security, later in hardware security. That market has now evolved to be called cybersecurity. The reason that we have enforcement is because there are relationships that exist and have existed a long time. There are negotiations, for example, that aren't productive, and enforcement becomes a mechanism to bind parties to a time frame and basically bring in sort of a moderator for that licensing negotiation. So in those enforcement programs, we have 6 current active pending cases, and we're currently enforcing 20 of our 22 patents. It's important to run your discussions in a pipeline. You have many dozens of concurrent discussions with prospective licensees. And as a public company, we don't report on that. The best way to see progress and growth in that segment of our business is to watch our public filings, and you'll see the revenues hit the balance sheet as they come in. On the enforcement side, we mentioned the timelines associated with litigation. There are events around which the likelihood of settlement increases. One of those, for example, would be a Markman hearing. A Markman hearing is the first time where both parties appear in front of the judge, and the judge mediates on what the definitions of the key words and terms are going to be used for the case. A next catalytic event, for example, would be a trial. We really track our cases on both of those, and we report those dates accordingly. Finjan today is focused on cybersecurity, but our plans for the future, while they include acquisition, I think include or present themselves with opportunities to grow into new technology areas. Our core competency is not just on managing intellectual property assets, which a lot of folks in the company have expertise in, but really having an appreciation for technology and how it drives market development. So there's opportunities that present themselves, for example, in medical devices, in semiconductors, and other areas of commerce and physical products that we're willing to explore.